So apologies for the wind, but here we are at St Oswald's. St Oswald's is a really, really old priory, in fact. The only thing that's left of it is this, which is the cloister gardens, or what's left of them. You can see not much, literally a sort of stone wall. Very old, in fact. Positively Anglo-Saxon. Anyway, I thought here was as good a place as any to give a little walk and talk on my Whistle-Stop Gloucester tour. I imagine that building there, is the cathedral, but I don't know for certain yet. You'll have to excuse me, I'm still getting used to actually using this camera. I've done a number of things this morning so far. I started by looking around the design outlet, which was connected to the Travelodge where I was staying, and that is connected as well to a multi-storey car park, all in one block, so that was good. I saw a farmer's market which had pulled up outside, and then I decided I'd walk around the quayside. So I crossed over the drawbridge. Sadly, the drawbridge didn't rise. Yesterday it did when I was actually there, but of course yesterday I had no camera. So I walked across to the other side, and there's an antique centre there that I looked in. I carried on walking. I think I'll sit myself down here. Carried on walking around. I was heading north, but I was on the west side of town, and I walked all the way around the docks there. There's a quayside which is connected to the River Severn, and around it are the old warehouse buildings. Some are older than others, some are positively dilapidated, and some are inhabiting currently working museums. So I looked at several of the museums that were there. There was a military museum, which was interesting, probably the best in terms for interaction. These museums generally cost just a couple of pounds to get in, £5 is the most expensive, and that was the Waterways Museum, which bizarrely enough was actually the poorest of the three that I've been in. Goodness, I think that rock just fell off the side of this monument. So yes, I started with the Waterways one, and then I went in. It's on 3 levels inside one of the warehouses. They did offer, in fact, for an extra fee to go on a boat trip, but the boat trip was about an hour long and I had quite a lot to do. And judging on how I didn't enjoy the museum that much, I mean, there was nothing wrong with the museum, but it was literally, you walk around, there's another stone that's fallen off the side of this building. I decided not to go for that. And then I carried on round, and on the north side of that dock is where the military museum is. The military museum was better, only on 2 levels, but it was more interactive. And then I worked myself through the area that has the prison and what they call Shire Hall, which is basically their central criminal court here. The police station, the magistrates' court, that sort of area, all shut down because of course it's Saturday. They wouldn't work Saturdays, even though some of us work Saturdays, although not this Saturday obviously. So there was that, and then I came out sort of level with the cathedral almost, but on the west side, and I discovered a church, St Nicholas Church, which was closed, as opposed to the Mariners' Chapel, which was around the docks, and that was open. I went in that delightful little church. I love the fact that some of these places down here are still just open, and there's nobody particularly, you know, there might be one person looking after it, and they could be anywhere. And, you know, you can just walk in and sit down and, you know. The Mariners' Chapel was interesting because the history of that was that obviously when the docks were working as a proper docks, they had lots of people sort of import-export, and the sailors wanted their own place to, you know, have a little church. So they built a little church, and the laugh of it was that the little church caught on so well that loads and loads of the inhabitants of Gloucester used it, so much so that these poor sailors ended up not being able to use their own church, and they had to appeal, I think, to the council to get the people of Gloucester to leave the chapel, go back to their own church, so that the sailors could actually use the building again. And then of course it sort of closed when that trade sort of stopped, and I think about 2012 they reinvigorated it, started the year with about 5 people. Started the church with about 5 people, and by the end of the year they had over 300. And let me just say, that chapel is only the size of my head. It's tiny. I don't think it would, comfortably fit more than 100 in. I hear bells. I hear bells from the cathedral. So, yeah, anyway, and then finally after that I went into the Folk Museum, which was fantastic. The Folk Museum is in a Tudor house, 550 odd years old, and although it's restored, the floorboards are so creaky. It's bizarre. Anyway, this afternoon I have quite a lot to do. I have to still look at this little church that's over behind that massive greenery there, and then of course there's the cathedral. There are at least 2, if not 3, monastic foundations to look at. The whole of Gloucester in terms of the shopping pedestrianised zone, which is over that way, and then whatever lies on the east side near the train station. So I've got plenty of stuff still to do, and we're already after lunch.